What is up, everybody? Happy Saturday to you. Hope you enjoyed your Sabbath. I was pretty chill today. Enjoyed the afternoon. My daughter, my 10-year-old, plays violin. So they had an all city orchestra concert this afternoon. So that was pretty cool. Then went out to dinner. And now I'm back chilling in the home life. I was looking at some of this immigration stuff. Obviously, ICE has gone to task per the Trump administration to deport or detain illegal human liabilities. And, a lot of people have mixed emotions about this. I've seen liberals on Instagram and I've seen little TikTok clips of people who are very overwhelmed with emotions. They're talking about families being separated and, put yourself in these people's places, and I do believe that, you have to look at things from a human perspective here. I mean, I thought that it was really dangerous and inhumane to see all of these people flocking to America. I mean, I just thought that that was very dangerous and humane and inhumane. And the fact that the Democrats actually did, even if they didn't overtly do it, they really they had a cattle call. There was a cattle call. I think that's the whole point of this influx and migrant situation in America that we are missing is that the Democrats did, in their own little colorful, slick way, put out a cattle call to all of these border nations and beyond that America was open, right? And you're talking about it takes the Trump and what really irritates me about this immigrant situation is that nobody, not a Democrat or a Republican, really got a handle on the situation. It really was until Donald Trump was elected. He had his border czar come in. Obviously, he has this administration, so they're going to get busy the way that he needs them to get busy. But it really wasn't until Donald Trump got elected, right, that we see all this movement with the immigrants. So that tells you logically that both Democrats and Republicans allowed this issue to exist the way it was. Why? Because they knew by the time somebody like Donald Trump would come in and try to mitigate it, the issue would be far more expensive to mitigate than it was just to let them free for all in. So now we're talking about America, who is already dealing with various different economic issues, right? Now we're having to spend money, taxpayers' money, to deport these people back to their countries after a previous administration has essentially put out this cattle call, right? And it does frustrate me. It does irritate me. I feel bad for all of the people who are dealing with this. I'm not really sure why these families are being separated. I mean, didn't they come together? Like somebody explain that to me because that's the reoccurring crying, the laments that I'm hearing is that they're separating families, they're separating children from their parents, and it's like, well, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? If all of them came over here illegally, we should keep them all together and make sure that if we're deporting folks, right, that we get them all back to their country as a family unit. Like, I don't really understand where this separation of the children are coming in. Can somebody explain that to me? Why is ICE separating families if you are deporting whole families? Somebody explain that to me. Sorry, let me get to the comments. What's going on, Thomas? I see you. Let me go to YouTube because for some reason I can't really see the chats here, but I see you guys. And I'm not trying to be inconsiderate, but I think we need to kind of look at this like this. If you had a family break into your home, right? Break into your home, you didn't invite them there, They broke into your home. Maybe you just had your door open, right? And this whole family come in. They say, "Oh, I see you out there in the back tilling to your yard or something," right? They come in, right, illegally into your shit, right? I don't think it's fair for your neighbors to shame you into keeping that particular family that just came up into your shit because your door was open, right? Now you got to keep them because there are people in need. And I think that's kind of the thing that's irritating me too, is that there are people who are actually shaming Americans who believe that we should have secure borders, who believe that there should be a sound vetting process of individuals who are going to come into this nation, that they believe in, that these people are actually being shamed. They're being called racist. And if you're black, they're saying that you're next. There's just so much fervor going on with these ICE raids. I even got a letter from the school, offering counseling to families or whatever who are impacted by the ICE raids, right? And that we have some kids in our districts that might be impacted by the ICE raids. And we need to make sure that we are coming together to support these families and needs. And it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this stuff. All right. I really don't want to have anything to do with it. Right. What will be, will be. And unfortunately, these people, even if they were coming into this country for a humanitarian need, there is a method, there is a process to do so. When you come into a nation illegally, you are automatically a criminal. You are automatically a criminal, you and your kids, unfortunately, because you did not go through the proper channels or process to get into that nation and then start leeching off of that nation, because immediately the Democrats had programs. They were diverting program funds to assist with these migrants, this influx of migrants. So the Americans who had a financially ended, let's just keep it a buck. We're coming off of COVID, right? So the last thing we needed was a bunch of human liabilities coming in when we're trying to recover our economy after a pandemic, right? So, I mean, I feel for these people. I really do. But they are illegal. They did come here illegally. They were not vetted. So we don't understand what their intentions are. Now, I will tell you that the people who have enabled this, their intentions were to get free slaves or get workers at a very, very cheap price. And this is why you see the Republicans in Texas right now scrambling, because they know that so many of their construction projects relied on that cheap labor, right? And you got to go back to NAFTA to kind of really understand why this immigrant thing is really just a creative extension of NAFTA in so many different ways. Because when you look at how many lower skilled workers that Mexico had versus the United States, they had significantly more lower skilled workers than we did, right? And so, how do you reconcile that? You open up your freaking country and you allow these lower skilled workers to come into it. So, this was a thing that both Democrats and Republicans enabled. And I can tell you right now, there are some very successful business people in my community. And I live in one of the richest counties in the United States, one of them. And there is a businessman who lives in my community who has several different houses, property in my communities, and they were full of immigrants. But from 2021, I don't really know what ICE is doing, because right now in our local news, ICE is getting busy in Detroit right now, right? So there were a lot of wealthy people who were enabling and benefiting from this illegal migrant influx. And they were Democrats and Republicans. And a lot of these houses that you see people being raided, you see these raids, these immigrants with houses that are actually pretty nice, right? Who the hell renting to them? Think about that. All right? And so these people have been set up in many degrees. And I'm like, my daughter, she's in a public school. All right? That bus stop before hers looked like Guatemala. Okay? I'm like, damn, where are them come from? Right? We had a huge influx of immigrants in our community. Were they a problem? No. Were they a problem? No. And I'm going to keep it all the way 100. I have never had an issue with an immigrant that has recently it came into my community. And that's just one or 100. They are working in these restaurants in the area. They're working, they're going home. They are not bothersome people. Many of the people that I have seen in my community, they're just trying to integrate and just go about the life. And so, I feel bad for these people. I really do. But at the end of the law, at the end of the day, you can't break laws. Okay? You cannot break laws. I am terrified at the very notion of entering into another country illegally. I don't even like that's not even something that's on my mind because if you were to be real honest, there are some countries around this world that are not as generous as America. There are some countries around this world that will actually kill your ass for breaking into their nation illegally. And that's just the truth. And, so I don't really I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric going around. I don't really find this to be it's a sensitive situation for me in that the Democratic Party almost extended an open invitation to people abroad to enter into this nation. They had so much rhetoric around the possibility that you can enter into this nation illegally. We've always had migrants, right? We've always had a migrant problem, right? But this was an influx because there was messaging out there that suggested to people that the United States was open. We were an open border. And they continued on with that messaging by stopping the border wall. They were opposed to the border wall. And if you look in history, every powerful nation had a wall. Okay? They had an iron dome of some sort. People weren't just entering into their lands just willy-nilly. And the times that we saw open borders in powerful nations is when we saw the ingredients of the fall of that nation. I mean, how do you think Rome fell? There was a lot of infighting indeed, but when you look at what that infighting, the root cause of that infighting was, it was because Rome was open borders, especially Western Rome's. They're like, everybody come. Everybody's free to come into Western Rome. And which one fell first? West Rome. It fell first because they allowed a lot of human liabilities to enter their empire who had zero loyalty to Rome. They had zero loyalty to Rome. And I was listening to this Mexican woman, and she had her Mexican flag, and she was talking about how Mexico was so strong. We're strong. We can get through anything. We're Mexicans. We're Mexican. It's like, well, you got a weak ass country. You might as well put that weak ass Mexican flag down in America because you fled your motherfucking country. Let's just keep it real. Some of these immigrants, they coming over here waving their flags. It's like, no, you fled that country. Like, honestly, I don't want to see people crying about these immigrants waving Mexican flags. That's off to me. That's very off to me. So let me get into the comments, but I just have to go on that little rant because a lot of this rhetoric is all over the freaking place. And it's like, I get having sympathy for these people, but they did break the law. And see, this is the America that we actually are transitioning to, that I hope that Donald Trump kind of stops us from, is enabling breaking the law. We have been enabling people breaking the damn laws. And then y'all want to go on this group sympathy junkie train, shaming people for not wanting that. Like everyday Americans, we see kind of where we are at economically. We ain't even really taking care of all of the people at home. So how the hell are we going to allow all these human liabilities to just be up in here like that? And there's going to be displacement. There's going to be displacement because immigrants are not just in the fields picking oranges like they want to lie and say. These people are doing restaurant jobs, jobs that your normal high schooler would have as a first job. They're doing these jobs. So, I mean, it is a problem. It is a problem. And as much as I sympathize with people who are trying to flee, at risk nations, right? There's a way to do it. And if you don't follow that way of doing it, you're a criminal. And I don't think that we should be sitting up there talking about, having sympathy for criminals. I mean, you broke the law, so you need to deal with the consequences of that. All right, let me get to the chat. What's going on, chat? I see you guys. I see you, Ghetto Planet. Give some love to my moderator. Common Sense is on the mic. Who takes money from APAC? Probably all of them. They are materialistic hedonists. Let me go back because I'm going way. What's going on, Brian? I see you. I've been busy lifing, man. I don't live on the internet, but I do like to check in and just talk about this and that. But it's so good to see you, Brian. I see you, Thomas. Right? I see you, Car. What is it? Comparison channel. Ghetto Planets in the house. I see you, Blink 182. What's my age again? What's my age again? I'm about to be 42 on Wednesday, you guys. 42. But I feel like if you're aging gracefully, you all good. All right, let's see. Amanda, I see you, honey. You're right, sis. There is no way an American cause escape to another country and make a living here. Yeah, nah, no. We ain't about to escape America and make a living in another country. Um, you said you hope they come back vetted. I hope they come back vetted too. Just go through the right channel, because to me, when you're, even if you're a family of immigrants fleeing, if you fled here illegally, you done cut corners, broke into our country, you are a criminal. These people have made their children criminal just by default of their actions. And you think about, see, we don't even need, they never focus on all of those people who died trying to cross the border. They don't talk about the sex trafficking that was going on with all this illegal migration to America. The whole situation is disgusting. It's disgusting. The Democrats created a disgusting situation that unfortunately the Republicans are going to have to clean up. And they're going to have to look like the merciless ones doing it. That's just basically what it is. They created a scenario that not only will cost America money under the Republican regime, but it would also create the image of Republicans being merciless because they're now deporting all of these illegal human liabilities. And that's exactly what a lot of these people are. They are human liabilities. Not all of them, but some of them. And many of them, especially the ones who are criminals. So I feel bad, and their liabilities too, because they're not coming here with a whole bunch of money. These people are coming in as literally, you know, people who divert welfare funds to the Americans that need it. So, I pray for everybody. I pray for everybody. But I think that this is a situation where you got to be reasonable about things. You have to look at things in a very broad lens. Um, it's unfortunate to say the least. But at the same time, if you're going to get your country back on track, you need to make sure that everybody in there belongs there and that everybody in this nation is going to be able to contribute, and which the illegals do, right? But at the same time, I guess what I'm trying to understand is they talk about how the undocumented people they contribute to the economy. They're like, do you know how many taxes they have to pay? And it's like, how the hell, like, if you're undocumented, how are you paying taxes? Like, if they're like, somebody's getting documented, if you got to pay taxes, there's some documentation somewhere. So these arguments are just weird to me. Just absolutely weird to me. If you talking about they contribute to the taxes and taxes, it's like, well, then they're not undocumented. There's a social security number attached to that person if they're paying taxes. Like, let's just keep it a buck. So, you know, crazy. I hear the SNAP benefits are on the chopping block as Trump, repositions the budget of the United States. A lot of people are upset about that, right? I think a lot of people, they look at these welfare programs, and for some reason they automatically associate it with black people, and it's just like, no. I mean, rural America, they are by far a large percentage of beneficiaries of these government subsidies. I saw this white rural woman. She was freaking out because she relies on that SNAP benefit for groceries to feed her children. You know, and I think that when it comes to welfare in America, I don't believe that it should be this thing where people are passing down generational bridge cards. I think people should be passing on generational wealth. And that only happens by the will and skill of the individuals, right? And I don't think that a lot of these programs, the way that, I think that their intention and inception is not what they ended up panning out to be. And so you have a lot of people who are legacy on governmental programs because they think that this is an entitlement. And and I've leveraged governmental benefits and programs before, like when I was in between jobs. I applied for unemployment. I got my SNAP benefit. Why would I use my own money when I bought into this, right? It's a benefit, right? And so I've used those benefits before, right? But I've always made a mission of I didn't want to stay on those benefits. It was like, okay, this was to get me by to the next episode of my economic empowerment, right? And so I was like, I mean, I'm ashamed. Like I was ashamed to use the bridge card when I did have it. I'm just like on a low swiping that thing. It's like because to me, a lot of people look at it as, you're not very self sufficient, right? And this is no stab to anybody who is currently using SNAP, EBT type programs, right? But at some point, like, and I'll give you a great example. One of my good friends, my sister's good friends actually, she was using all of these subsidies, right? And her daughters used it. Obviously, in the black community, sometimes in the lower poverty line, there's some cycles of behaviors that we see. Well, somehow she did something where she had to lose her benefits, all of them. Maybe she did some scamming shit, I don't know. But she lost her benefits, and now she had to go at it by herself. In 2 years, right, working, she was working like crazy because she had to obviously pay for groceries, everything out of pocket. In 2 years, though, with all that work, she was able to buy a home, right? She was able to budget her household. And she's like, I'm fine without it. She was like, I was freaking out at first, but I'm actually fine. She developed her self sufficiency, right? And you don't want the government taking care of you because really they're going to give you the bare minimum, right? And so I feel bad for some of these people who might be at risk with the SNAP EBT. But, I implore these people to go out and acquire a different type of skill that can help you pay your bills, right? Different skills will sets in the market will pay you different type of compensation. And I always tell people, go out and acquire skills that will help you pay your bills. Get a designation, okay? Get something that the people in the market need that you can provide to them, right? And so that you can feed yourself. I was just telling this to my older daughter. I said, you can go any pathway you want to go, right? If you never want to go to college, if you want to just get a job, make sure you get a good job that can help you sustain yourself. And obviously, as you plan to expand your family, you need to make sure that you're making enough money to be able to do that. Life is about planning. A lot of people are just winging it. They just doing shit, right? Following whatever, right? But if you can plan for the life that you want to live, the type of life you want to live as much as you possibly can, this is where you don't have to even worry about a SNAP or a EBT or any of that stuff because you're going to have the skills to pay your own damn bills. You're not going to need to rely on these people. I remember I was leaving one company and I was going to another company and they had the world's longest hiring process. And I had 3 months, no income or nothing. I was like, I should probably work on my book. Why? Because I had an emergency savings fund. I could pay my bills. Okay. I wasn't worried about anything. That depletion window of my emergency, I wasn't even depleting my whole emergency savings fund as I was waiting for another job that I had an offer on. But that is just to say, you know, when you plan for all of the things that life could throw at you, you really don't have to rely on too many other people to make life happen for you. And so, that's just my little side note about this SNAP benefits because a lot of people are upset about it. It might go on the chopping block. We don't know what the Trump administration is going to do as Doge is looking at opportunities to cut government spending, which we need to happen. We need government spending to be cut. We do. And I think that, any government, I think that I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I said this. A government needs to balance their actions with the inclinations of the people governed, right? So, as much as we want the government to be there to help the people and the societies in the nation, right, we also need that government to be able to hold people accountable, right? People and corporations. So, corporations should be producing enough jobs where people can be able to, if they're not entrepreneurial, because let's just face it, the entrepreneurial spirit is not in everybody, right? America isn't a nation of entrepreneurs. It is a nation of laborers. It always have been. It is a nation of workers. And so if you have people who can make reasonable wages for their standard of living, right? America could function really well. And this is where we need to start looking at the people from the top. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not a socialist, right? But I do believe in social responsibilities. And what we have allowed American companies to do, many of them, in many degrees, greedy ass CEOs, shareholders, just fucking up the economy. We need to get a handle on that. We need to get a handle on private equity in this nation and how it's ruining this nation. There's a lot of shit that's ruining America beyond what they want to just tell you is ruining it. But there's a lot of things that are making it unfair for the everyday person. I don't care what color you are. All right? It is. And that's just bottom line. All right, let's see. Let me get back to the thing. What's going on, Neo? I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you. There are places by my house where there are businesses, for instance, sell Latino side service like new names, stolen social security number, green cards, etc. That is insane. I believe it, right? I had food stamps at 19. We need communities and self-sufficiency. Yeah, I absolutely agree. See, I think that, there are a lot of people in certain communities and economic groups. Like I said, they're instead of passing on generational wealth, they are passing on generational bridge cards and bad habits. And this is where you get these cycles of people who are not economically empowered. They are literally a threat to themselves. Like I said, there will be no more excuses for mismanagement these next 4 years. I hope so. Here's the thing. I think that, you got to look at people. Like when I look at Donald Trump, I look at, you know, the things that he prioritized in the first term, right? A lot of those things were just really legal based, right? Giving artists the rights to their music. I forgot the name of that act, right? It wasn't really financial heavy. And I'm trying to, like, I would really love to understand what the spending of Trump's first term was on and what the ROI was for America, right? And I know he had to deal with COVID, part of that too. But, the bottom line with government spending, if we don't see the return on investment, the return on spending, then we're just spending. We're just spending. And that is not a good thing. So I'm glad that Doge exists. I don't believe we should get rid of welfare and other subsidy programs, but I do believe that there should be more stipulation on them, right? One person should not be on welfare for years. We shouldn't be raising whole people on welfare because the people that are having children and all that stuff, that they're not in a position to do it. You know what I mean? I have another side note on that thought in connection to the eugenics program, but I'll just reserve that for myself because I don't want to sound too evil. But yeah, there are people who should not be able to have kids if they can't take care of them, because if their kids become a burden to other taxpayers, then there's a loss of equity there in my brain. In my brain, there's a loss of equity when communities have to take care of liabilities, because that's what children are. I have 3 children myself, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm a financial advisor. I tell people, children are liabilities, okay? They are the only liabilities that we love. They are the only liabilities that can turn into assets if we raise them right. And that's just word 100. Yeah, I'm fully licensed. I was actually going through my insurance CE training or courses. And, it's amazing how much money people push out for healthcare expenses when they retire, because they set it up in their kids' brains that that they don't want them to take care of them, right? And they condition their kids to think like that, right? And then they just become depletion. The healthcare just becomes the main depletion factor of their retirement funds because they have set their kids up to believe that. Think about how much legacy a lot of people would retain for their children, excuse me, who proves to be assets to them, if the children truly were assets to them in those pivotal care years, right? Instead of saying that the kids shouldn't be burdened, right? And I'm setting my kids up. Hey, if I die, you can either have this much money or that much money. It really just depends on how lazy you are and how much you don't think that you should give back to me. I'm never going to set my kids up to believe that they should not have a part in my care when I get older. That's just dumb as hell. And I feel sorry for people who think that they should set their kids up that way. It's horrible, and it's not even godly. The Bible even tells us not to forsake our parents in their older age. So Satan's world got people depleting all kinds of shit and just going out the world backwards. But that's just me, y'all. That is just me, right? But anyways, you guys, I didn't want to stay on for very long. I was just kind of looking at that deportation stuff. I hate to be a stoic about this, but I look at it different ways. The Democrats, they put out that cattle call to all of those people. Those people listen, they complied, they risked their lives to come over here to America, right? Only for another administration to come in and say, we don't do that. We're not going to do all that. We're not bringing human liabilities, letting them just free for all into this nation, right? So they were talking about some of these people are sent over to Guantanamo. And somebody was mentioning that Bill Clinton actually had 45,000 illegals in that particular center at one time. So, throwing shade on Trump is like the teapot calling the kettle black on so many different levels because the Democrats have done that. Obama has deported quite a few people. I don't know who he was deporting. Was it people of color or what? But he did it, right? So every president recognizes the illegal immigrant limit that this country can sustain. And that's just what it is. So I don't think Trump, he's coming in aggressively only just because look at how aggressive that influx was during the Biden Harris years. That was very aggressive, you know? And I think people need to take into account that. And, Democrats are so contradictory. They're always like, oh, Trump is hanging out with his little billionaire friends. I'm like, Trump is hanging out with millionaires, possibly mostly millionaires, probably a few billionaires. But the Democrats were the one that were able to raise almost $2.5 billion for a failing candidate. So stop acting like y'all so broken that y'all not rolling million and billionaires too. Sam Bankman Fried's ass is still not in jail, right? So he was rolling with the right people. So these people, they're so condescending, they're so contradictory and hypocritical so many different ways. Democrats, liberals roll with billionaires. All the same. All the same. Let's just keep it real all the way. Liberals are able to raise a shit ton of money for failing candidates. I think Kamala Harris was a big Ponzi scheme. I almost feel like she was a money laundering scheme. I feel like they knew she wasn't going to win. It was just a way for some of those folks to launder some money or punk some money out of their emotional donors. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I didn't want to stay on for very long, or evening, I should say. Didn't want to stay on for very long, but let me know what you guys think about this. Anything else on my radar? No. Trump came out swinging with a bunch of executive orders. I think there was conversation about him specifically defining the 14th Amendment being for foundational Black Americans, and people did not like that particular clarity. You have a lot of Democratic Blacks who are in their feelings. They're still butthurt that Kamala Harris lost like she did, right? And now they're on with the fear tactics and the fear strategies of Black Americans. They're getting rid of DEI. I never liked DEI. The whole concept of DEI did never set well with me as a foundational Black American woman, because I think you have all these hidden premises of DEI, and at the end of the day, first off, all of the faces of DEI training were white liberal women. So that was problematic for me off gate. When you look at all of like the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the faces that spearhead those training, Jewish, white men or women, right? And I heard a lot of even DEI and culture consultants who were Black saying that those people were being prioritized over them. So DEI was a big laugh riot to me. I think the bigger beneficiaries of DEI was not black people. Even though you have the ignorant Republicans who want to call black people DEIs and stuff, yeah, the beneficiaries of DEI were mostly white looking women. Whether they were Christian white or Jewish white, they were white women. Okay? It wasn't black people, right? So, when Trump gets on the mic talking about these plane crashes, DEI, all that stuff, Trump needs to be looking at that as probably some weird ass people in these organizations who are trying to cause catastrophe, right? Because he's talking about all these executive orders and making all these cuts. And I do believe, and I know this sounds like real wicked and weird, but I feel like anything that Trump says, right, or does, they're going to create a scenario to make him like regret it. Like, so if Trump says we're going to pull the United States out of the World Health Organization, right? I believe that these wicked ass people will coordinate a horrible ass disease, right? That will make a I told you so moment, right? So that it can look bad on Trump. This is how wicked these people are. Humans and us, we're just casualties to the bullshit that they are doing, really. But, I think if he says, oh, I'm going to cut, funding for the FAA, they was like, well, let's pop a couple of plane crashes on America so that we can blame Trump. I mean, I think that Trump really should just do shit and not and don't really say a whole lot of shit. Just get it done and don't just be gloating and antagonizing people off of the things that he's doing, right? Because the liberals are very vindictive people. They coordinate very well. And I just really feel like Trump should just do shit. Just get it done and then let them bitch about it afterwards. Don't be just publicizing. Don't just be big talking out here in these streets. Just get it done, move on, let them bitch about it later, right? Because I feel like everything that they know that he's going to do, they're going to set up a scenario to make him kind of regret it or show Americans, like I told you guys, he's incompetent. Look what just happened. And this was under his watch. So this is just me. But I just really do believe people are as wicked like that. So I think he should just not talk too much. That's just me. Um, let's see. And it seems like you guys are agreeing with me. And so yeah, so we all are on the same page. Trump should just do shit, don't say too much shit. Just let him bitch later, because I just feel like these people are like they are pissed that this man won. I truly do believe that these people are pissed that he's won. And I do believe that they are going to be scheming on how to make this next 4 years for him unsuccessful. I truly do believe that. I truly do believe that. So, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We just gonna keep our prayers up because what the devil is doing is beyond our control. But I think it's all comedy at the end of the day. Some of it's not really funny, right? I mean, I don't follow the migrant thing. I don't get on the internet so I can see some deportations. I don't do that. I'm just so far in my community, I have not seen ICE, but apparently our school districts have gotten notification that ICE will be coming to get some folks that have been enrolled, you know, and they're trying to talk about how they're going to fight and combat ICE. So they're coordinating how they're going to sort of usurp ICE and what they should be telling. I mean, I read this whole memo on how this school in our district, per the superintendent, she is talking about how you make it difficult for the ICE people, right? You make sure you do this, you this. We're not divulging information if they don't have warrants or this or that. So the liberals are really like, we're gonna make it harder. Like, if you want to deport these people, we're gonna make it hard, right? Because again, a lot of these people are benefiting from those kids' parents working in their restaurants for super duper cheap. That's pretty much what it is. All right, you guys, let me see. Um, We need bad people out of the country, not good families. I agree. I agree. I mean, and I do believe that some of these people are refugees. And I feel like Trump and ICE, they've been, and I think Tom Homan, is it Honeman? I think he's been very specific that they are targeting criminals, right? But, I have heard situations of people like this one lady, she's from Mexico, out here in Detroit. She's part of this huge organization that's helping immigrants and all that stuff. And she claims that a guy that was undocumented and here for 30 years, never committed a crime, was seized by ICE. So it seems as though undocumented people are the priority, and they're trying to say that it's not focused on the criminals, it's not focused on the gangbangers, it's focused on all of the undocumented people. I have a hard time believing that. I don't even think Trump would be that stupid. I don't think that Trump would be that stupid because he knows how much of the US economy actually relies on these illegal human liability. And they're not even liabilities if we're able to put them to work, right? And so he knows that some of those people are liabilities because of their behaviors and their inclinations. We got to get them out, right? But some of these people are truly assets because they truly are doing the tasks that most Americans have been conditioned not to want to do. And that is a fact too. That is a fact too. And you always need, and especially if we're talking about futuristically the infrastructure, the focus in America, we need a large portion of these illegals, right? The ones who are not committing crimes, the ones who are, working on bridges and different structures, those people. And a lot of them, if they're working on bridges and if they got jobs, they are too afraid to do stupid shit. They're not trying to be on the radar of the cops. They're trying to live a straight laced American life. So, you know, what do we say? You said just get here legal. I agree. I agree. There is a process. And I think that, a lot of these people, they might be reprocessed. Like, I mean, I think that a lot of these people may be being held at these centers. I think maybe they will be able to be integrated back into America after they have been properly vetted. And hopefully this detainment, because a lot of these people, I think that people need to realize there's a couple of things happening here. There's deportations happening, but there's also detainments happening. And when you think about how some of these people, they just got through the systems, they just got through the cracks, right? And we need to account for those folks, right? We don't even know how many terrorists that came into this damn country because the Democrats, with their need to have just open borders during the Biden administration, we don't know how many terrorists. And there was actually a list that came out about 2 years ago that showed the demographics of where a lot of these immigrants were coming from. And they weren't Mexico, they weren't Guatemala. These people were coming from Middle Eastern lands, Arab nations, Russia, right? Ukraine. These people were coming from all over the place. So, when people think immigration, don't just think people of quote color, right? Because there was a lot of non people of color that made their way into this nation as well. And they got to be taken care of all the same. So let's just keep everything equitable. But, anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. I will catch you on the next one. If you did conversations or content like this, definitely don't forget to hit that subscribe button. YouTube is always censoring my content. I don't know why. I'm very middle of the road. Like, I cannot stand the Democrats. I do have a special disdain for them. But I don't rock with the Republicans like that either. I think the better route is being in the middle, being staunchly independent. So you can see, kind of the points from both sides. You know what I mean? And when you're able to kind of stand in the middle, you can make some good assessments that way too. So I encourage people to be like me, staunchly independent, so that you can look at things objectively with common sense and just connect the right dots. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye.